If alien medicine was supposed to be gentle, then why was the scanner screaming like I'd just broken the galaxy? That was the first clear thought Hunter Hayes had when consciousness finally clawed its way back through the fog in his skull. Cold light glowed above him, pale turquoise panels stretching across a ceiling that looked grown rather than built, and the air carried a faint metallic sweetness that reminded him of rain hitting hot steel. His back rested on something smooth and slightly warm, not quite a hospital bed, more like a molded medical cradle that adjusted under his weight as if it were breathing with him. The last thing he remembered was the cargo shuttle shuddering in orbit and a blinding flash of alarms when the life support grid overloaded. Now everything hummed quietly except the scanner gliding inches above his chest. Hunter blinked hard, his vision sharpening just in time to see slender fingers the color of polished sea glass moving across a floating panel of light. The alien nurse standing beside him was taller than he expected, maybe 6 feet or a little more, with iridescent turquoise skin that caught the glow of the room and turned it into shifting shades of blue and silver. Her uniform clung smoothly to her form, a sleek medical weave that looked more grown than stitched, and thin bands of light traced along her wrists where medical instruments responded to the scanner's signals. Her eyes, wide and reflective like molten gold, flicked between the display and Hunter's face as the device passed slowly from his shoulders down toward his abdomen. "Remain still, human," she said calmly, her voice carrying a melodic cadence that his translator struggled to keep up with. Hunter raised one eyebrow, still foggy but aware enough to realize two things immediately. First, he was definitely not on any human ship anymore, and second, something about that scanner had suddenly become very interested in him. The soft humming pitch changed as the device drifted lower across his torso, the floating display filling with alien symbols that pulsed brighter with every inch. The nurse leaned closer, curiosity flickering across her features, and adjusted the instrument with careful precision. Then the room chirped sharply. The scanner's lights flared from blue to amber. The nurse froze. Hunter noticed the change before he even understood why, because every medical device in the room seemed to pause in response, as if waiting for instructions. She slowly reached down and brushed two gentle fingers just above the scanner's focal point, verifying the reading. The display erupted with data. Hunter exhaled through his teeth. "Okay, that can't be normal," he muttered. The nurse's golden eyes widened as the symbols accelerated across the screen. "Impossible," she whispered, leaning closer to confirm the anomaly. "Your body is recovering from trauma. This biological reaction should not be active." Hunter gave a tired half-smile despite the ache in his ribs. "Lady, if you think that's weird, wait until you see humans drink coffee." But the nurse wasn't listening anymore. Her gaze had locked onto the scanner's output, the color draining from her expression as the device recalculated again and again like it couldn't accept the answer. "Your species," she murmured slowly, glancing from the glowing display back to Hunter as if seeing him for the first time. "Your species should not function this way." Before Hunter could ask what exactly she meant, the quiet medical bay shifted. A low warning tone rolled through the corridor outside, subtle but unmistakable. The nurse's head snapped toward the door as the lights dimmed half a shade and the scanner suddenly changed priorities, redirecting its analysis. Somewhere deeper in the station, something heavy had just come online. And judging by the way the nurse looked back at Hunter now, with equal parts fascination and concern, whatever the scanner had discovered about human biology might suddenly matter a lot more than either of them expected. The warning tone deepened into a slow pulsing vibration that Hunter could feel through the medical cradle beneath his back, like the station itself had suddenly taken a breath it was not sure it could hold. The alien nurse moved quickly now, her earlier scientific curiosity replaced by the smooth precision of someone trained for emergencies, and the floating panels around the bed shifted position as if responding to her thoughts. "Remain calm," she said, though the faint tightening of her voice suggested the situation outside the room was anything but calm. Hunter pushed himself slightly higher on his elbows, ignoring the dull ache in his ribs as he glanced toward the sealed doorway where thin lines of light had turned from soft blue to alert amber. "That sound usually means something bad is happening," he said. The nurse did not answer immediately. Her golden eyes were fixed on the wall display where a stream of symbols scrolled too fast for his translator to fully interpret. Then the room shifted again. The lights dimmed another fraction and a transparent layer slid over the doorway like liquid glass. Hunter watched the change with a raised brow. Okay. That definitely means something bad is happening. The nurse finally looked at him again, but the curiosity from earlier had not vanished. If anything, it had intensified. You were recovered near a damaged transport vessel drifting close to our station perimeter, she said carefully. Our patrol ships believed your craft had suffered a systems failure. Hunter nodded slowly. That sounds about right. 1 minute I was trying to reroute power through a failing coolant line and the next minute everything went bright. The nurse studied him for a long moment as if comparing his words to the data still glowing on the scanner behind her. Your injuries were moderate but not life-threatening. Your physiology stabilized far faster than expected. Hunter gave a small shrug. Humans are stubborn that way. The station trembled faintly. Not enough to knock anything loose, but enough that Hunter felt the vibration ripple through the medical cradle. The nurse turned toward the ceiling as another alert tone passed through the corridor outside, quieter this time but somehow more serious. Hunter followed her gaze. That one sounded worse. External vessels have entered our sector without authorization, she replied. Her voice remained calm, but the way her fingers hovered above the control panel suggested she was calculating several possibilities at once. Hunter exhaled slowly. Let me guess. Not friendly visitors. Unknown vessels rarely arrive unannounced with powered drives, she said. Then her eyes drifted back toward the scanner display still hovering beside the bed. The strange reading that had shocked her earlier had not disappeared. If anything, the numbers were increasing as Hunter's body continued recovering. The nurse stepped closer again, her gaze shifting between Hunter and the display with renewed fascination. Your biology is continuing to produce the same anomalous signal, she said quietly. Hunter rubbed the back of his neck. That thing is still complaining about me? It is not complaining, she corrected softly. It is attempting to understand you. The wall display flickered as new station data streamed in. Hunter caught glimpses of orbital maps and distant ship signatures, forming beyond the station's outer ring. Whatever was approaching had clearly drawn attention. The nurse hesitated for half a second, then made a decision. She deactivated the scanner and the hovering device folded away into the wall with a soft hiss. You should not be involved in this situation, she said, but her eyes lingered on him again with that same puzzled intensity. Hunter swung his legs carefully off the medical cradle and tested his weight on the floor. The room spun for a second, then steadied. Funny thing about humans, he said, glancing toward the sealed doorway glowing amber across the room. Trouble usually involves us whether we plan for it or not. The nurse watched him stand, and for the first time since he woke up, the expression on her face shifted from curiosity to something closer to realization. Whatever the scanner had discovered about human biology had clearly unsettled her. And judging by the growing number of unknown ships now drifting into orbit outside the station, that discovery might soon matter a lot more than either of them expected. The moment Hunter stepped out of the medical bay, he realized the station was nothing like any human facility he had ever seen. The corridor curved gently in both directions, its walls grown from smooth pearlescent material that shimmered faintly like moonlight on water. Soft lines of bioluminescent light ran along the floor instead of harsh overhead lamps, guiding movement through the structure with a quiet elegance that made the entire place feel alive. Hunter paused for half a second, absorbing the scale of it. The ceiling arched nearly 20 feet above him, and the air carried the faint scent of something mineral and clean, like fresh rain falling on polished stone. Whatever civilization built this place had not simply engineered a station. They had cultivated it. The alien nurse moved ahead of him with fluid confidence, her turquoise skin catching the ambient glow as if the corridor itself recognized her presence. Panels opened in the walls as she passed, revealing streams of floating data and shifting star maps that rearranged themselves when she glanced at them. Hunter followed carefully, testing his balance as his muscles continued to recover. The medical cradle had done its job well, but the dull stiffness in his shoulders reminded him he had recently survived something unpleasant. The station trembled again, slightly stronger. This time, and distant voices echoed through the corridor in a language his translator struggled to organize. Hunter looked up as a group of tall alien figures hurried past an intersecting hallway, their long robes lined with glowing symbols that shifted colors with every step. None of them looked at him directly, but several glanced twice, their eyes widening when they realized a human was walking beside a medical officer. "I am guessing humans do not normally visit here," Hunter said quietly. The nurse did not slow down. "Your species is rarely present in this region of space," she replied. "This station serves as a medical and research hub for the Avern Commonwealth." Hunter raised an eyebrow. "Commonwealth sounds important." "It governs 87 inhabited systems," she said calmly. Hunter let out a low whistle. "That definitely sounds important." They reached a wider chamber where the corridor opened into a massive central atrium. Hunter stopped without meaning to. The station interior stretched out like a cathedral of living crystal. Multiple levels curved upward around a vast open space where hovering platforms drifted between balconies. Streams of translucent transport pods glided silently through the air, carrying alien passengers between levels while holographic constellations rotated slowly above them like a moving sky. Hunter had spent years hauling cargo between remote colonies, but he had never seen anything like this. "Okay," he murmured under his breath. "That is impressive." The nurse watched his reaction with quiet interest, as if measuring something beyond simple curiosity. "Your species expands quickly," she said. "But your architecture remains utilitarian." Hunter chuckled softly. "You are not wrong." A sudden chime rippled through the atrium. Every holographic star map shifted at once, expanding to display a cluster of unknown vessel signatures forming beyond the station's orbit. Hunter noticed the change immediately. The nurse noticed something else. Her gaze dropped briefly to a small scanner mounted on her wrist. The device flashed once, then again, recalibrating its readings. She frowned. Hunter caught the movement. "Let me guess," he said. "That thing still thinks I am weird." The nurse hesitated before answering. "Your biological signal has not stabilized," she said slowly. "In fact, it is increasing." Hunter blinked. "Increasing?" Before she could respond, the star map above them expanded again. More vessels appeared at the edge of the display, drifting closer toward the station perimeter. The atrium grew noticeably quieter as dozens of alien passengers paused to watch the same projection. Hunter folded his arms and stared up at the expanding formation of ships. "Those are the visitors you mentioned," he said. The nurse did not reply immediately. Her attention was fixed on the scanner again, then on Hunter, then back to the orbital map. For the first time since he woke up, genuine uncertainty crossed her face. "No," she said slowly. "Those vessels were already expected." Hunter frowned. "Then why does everyone suddenly look nervous?" The nurse lifted her wrist again and turned the scanner toward him. The screen pulsed brighter, reacting instantly to his presence. The numbers on the display climbed higher than before. Her golden eyes widened as she compared the reading to the growing fleet outside. "Because," she whispered, "your signal just synchronized with something arriving in orbit." The scanner on the nurse's wrist pulsed again, brighter this time, as if the device had suddenly become excited about something it could not fully explain. Hunter leaned closer, squinting at the shifting alien symbols that crawled across the tiny display. He did not understand the language, but even without a translator he could recognize the pattern of escalating alerts. Numbers kept climbing. "Okay," Hunter said slowly, folding his arms as he stared at the screen. "I am starting to think that thing is not supposed to glow that color." The nurse did not answer immediately. Her golden eyes moved from the scanner to Hunter, then upward toward the massive orbital map still rotating above the atrium. The incoming fleet had drawn closer to the station, their signatures spreading into organized formations that looked deliberate and controlled. Yet the scanner on her wrist continued to react only to one thing. Him. She lifted the device again and ran a quick diagnostic. The screen recalibrated for half a second before flashing with the same strange result. Her brow furrowed slightly. "Your biological output is interacting with external signals," she said quietly. Hunter blinked. "I am sorry. My what is doing what?" She turned the scanner toward him again. The moment the sensor aligned with his chest, the numbers spiked once more. Several nearby aliens in the atrium noticed the flare of light and glanced over with open curiosity. The nurse lowered her wrist quickly, clearly aware that the reading was drawing attention. "Your physiology is emitting a pattern that the station sensors recognize," she said, choosing her words carefully. "But that pattern does not exist in our medical records." Hunter rubbed the back of his neck, half amused and half concerned. "You are telling me my body is broadcasting something?" "Not intentionally," she replied. "But the signal is real." Above them the orbital display shifted again. One of the approaching vessels separated from the formation and drifted closer to the station's perimeter. Hunter noticed the movement immediately. The nurse noticed something else. Her scanner vibrated softly. The signal reading jumped higher. She inhaled slowly as realization crept across her expression. "It increased again," she murmured. Hunter glanced between her and the holographic map overhead. "When that ship moved closer?" She nodded. Hunter stared at the display for several seconds, thinking. "So let me see if I understand this," he said. "A random fleet shows up, your station alarms start humming, and suddenly my body decides to play radio antenna." The nurse did not laugh. Instead she activated another function on the scanner. A faint beam of soft blue light traced briefly across Hunter's chest before returning to the device. The reading spiked once more. This time even the nurse seemed surprised. "That should not be possible," she whispered. Hunter raised an eyebrow. "You keep saying that." The nurse looked directly at him now, the earlier curiosity replaced with something deeper. "Human biology should not synchronize with external energy sources," she said. "Your species is not listed as compatible with Averan resonance fields." Hunter frowned. "Resonance fields?" Before she could explain further, a ripple of murmurs spread through the atrium. The orbital map zoomed in automatically as the approaching vessel completed its maneuver and locked into a holding position near the station. A new symbol appeared beside it. The nurse stared at the display and went completely still. Hunter noticed immediately. "That one important?" he asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "That vessel belongs to the Imperial Science Directorate." Hunter blinked. "Which sounds like the kind of group that asks a lot of questions." The nurse slowly looked back down at the scanner in her hand. The numbers had climbed higher than ever before. Her expression shifted from curiosity to something closer to disbelief. "And right now," she said quietly, "your body is responding to their arrival." The strange reading on the nurse's scanner did not fade the way normal medical anomalies usually did. Instead it stabilized into a steady rhythmic pattern, pulsing softly like a heartbeat that did not belong entirely to Hunter's body. She stared at the numbers for several seconds before activating a second diagnostic layer, and the device projected a faint holographic graph between them. Hunter leaned forward, curious despite the tension rippling through the atrium around them. The graph formed two lines. One line represented the distant Imperial vessel holding position outside the station. The other line represented the signal coming from him. Both lines moved in perfect synchronization. Hunter blinked slowly. "That looks suspiciously like a connection." The nurse did not answer right away. Her eyes tracked the graph with growing disbelief. "This pattern should not exist," she said quietly. "Averan resonance fields are extremely specific. Only certain energy structures can interact with them." Hunter tilted his head. "And humans are not on that list." Correct. The scanner chimed again. A third line suddenly appeared in the holographic graph. This one represented the station's medical grid itself. For a brief moment the three signals overlapped in a triangular rhythm that made the scanner vibrate faintly in her hand. The nurse inhaled sharply. "That is not possible," she whispered. Hunter crossed his arms and looked up toward the enormous star map hovering above the atrium. The Imperial vessel had moved slightly closer to the station's outer perimeter. Nothing aggressive. Just deliberate. Like someone approaching a door they knew would open. Around them, several alien technicians had begun quietly watching the same display. Conversation softened. A few individuals pointed subtly toward the scanner glow in the nurse's hand. Hunter noticed the attention. "I am guessing this kind of thing does not happen often around here." The nurse shook her head slowly. "It has never happened." She tapped the scanner again and expanded the analysis. The holographic graph rotated, revealing a complex spiral pattern hidden inside the signal itself. Hunter could not read the alien symbols, but he could recognize when a machine was excited about data. The spiral pulsed once, then twice, then brightened dramatically as the Imperial vessel outside activated something of its own. The nurse's breath caught. "It responded," she said. Hunter raised an eyebrow. "The ship?" "Yes." Her gaze moved from the scanner to Hunter with open astonishment now. "Your biological signal triggered a reaction from their resonance array." Hunter rubbed his chin. Thoughtfully. "So let me understand this. I wake up on an alien station, your scanners think my body is weird, and now a government science ship across orbit is answering my heartbeat." The nurse gave a small nod, still clearly processing the implications. "Your physiology is interacting with technology that was never designed for humans." The spiral pattern brightened again. A soft notification tone rippled through the entire atrium as the station's main systems recognized the same anomaly. Above them the star map shifted colors. A new marker appeared directly over Hunter's location inside the station. Several nearby aliens turned their heads at the same moment. Hunter looked up at the glowing symbol now hovering directly above him and sighed. "I have a bad feeling about that marker." The nurse checked the scanner again and her expression changed from scientific fascination to something far more serious. "The Imperial Science Directorate has requested a live data channel with the source of the signal." Hunter pointed at himself. "Which would be me?" "Yes." The spiral pattern pulsed once more, stronger than before, and the station lights dimmed slightly as power redirected to the resonance grid outside. The nurse slowly lowered the scanner, her golden eyes still locked on Hunter as if she had just realized something enormous. "Human physiology was never supposed to interact with Averan resonance technology," she said softly. Hunter gave a crooked smile. "Seems like my species did not get that memo." The scanner vibrated again, and this time the spiral expanded across the holographic display, spreading outward like a key fitting perfectly into a lock. The nurse stared at the pattern and whispered something under her breath that the translator struggled to process. When it finally resolved, Hunter caught only 3 words. "Primary activation signal." The spiral pattern on the scanner did not fade after the station recognized it. Instead it expanded across the holographic display like a signal finally finding the right frequency after centuries of silence. Hunter watched the projection widen in the air between them, the faint glow reflecting across the nurse's turquoise skin as the numbers continued climbing. The atrium around them had grown noticeably quieter. More aliens were watching now. Several technicians on the upper balconies had stopped working entirely, their attention fixed on the massive orbital map above the station where the Imperial vessel had begun slowly rotating its position. It was not approaching aggressively. It was aligning. Hunter folded his arms and glanced up at the star map again. "You know," he said slowly, "I am starting to feel like the center of a very weird science experiment." The nurse barely heard him. Her scanner was vibrating steadily now, reacting to a flood of new information streaming through the station's network. She opened another layer of analysis and the spiral projection shifted again, revealing something buried deeper in the signal. Hunter leaned forward slightly as new symbols formed in the holographic display. Even without understanding the alien language he could see the moment the machine recognized the pattern. The spiral expanded into a complex lattice that looked less like random data and more like a key fitting perfectly into a lock. The nurse inhaled sharply. "Ancient resonance architecture," she whispered. Hunter blinked. "That sounds old." "It is older than the Commonwealth itself." Her eyes were wide now, scanning the symbols racing across the display. "These patterns appear in our earliest technological records. They are part of the original energy network discovered by the first Avran explorers thousands of years ago." Hunter scratched the back of his head. "And my body is somehow talking to it." "Yes." The nurse tapped the scanner again and a second holographic panel opened beside the first. This one showed fragments of historical data recovered from ancient Avran archives. Diagrams of massive structures filled the air above the scanner. Huge orbital rings. Planetary energy towers. Networks stretching across entire star systems. Hunter stared at the projection, impressed despite the tension in the room. "Those look expensive." "They are the foundation of our interstellar infrastructure," she replied. "Every major resonance grid in Avran territory traces its origin back to this technology." Hunter looked back at the spiral pattern again. The lines had begun rotating slowly, aligning with the ancient diagrams in ways that made the scanner glow even brighter. "Let me guess," he said carefully. "Humans are not supposed to be part of that system." The nurse shook her head slowly. "Not only are humans not part of it," she said, "there are no records of any biological organism interacting with resonance architecture in this way." Above them the star map shifted again. The Imperial vessel had fully aligned with the station's orbit now. A new signal spread outward from the ship like a ripple through water. The scanner in the nurse's hand responded instantly. The spiral pattern brightened and expanded outward across both holographic panels. Hunter felt a strange warmth ripple through his chest at the exact same moment. He blinked and instinctively placed a hand against his sternum. "Okay," he muttered. "That one I definitely felt." The nurse noticed immediately. "You experienced the resonance shift?" Hunter nodded slowly. "Like a pulse." The scanner chimed again. A third panel appeared automatically, displaying a rapidly growing column of station alerts. The nurse's eyes scanned the list for only a second before she froze. Hunter saw the change in her expression. "That does not look like good news." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The Imperial Science Directorate has initiated a full historical cross-reference on your biological signal." Hunter raised an eyebrow. "Which means?" She turned the scanner toward him again. The spiral pattern had stabilized into a perfect geometric formation now, one that matched the ancient resonance diagrams almost exactly. Her golden eyes locked onto his with quiet disbelief. "It means your biology matches a signal pattern that has existed in our oldest archives for over 3,000 years. Hunter stared at the projection hovering between them, then slowly looked back up at the Imperial vessel waiting silently beyond the station. "And somehow," he said carefully, "that pattern just woke up when I arrived." The scanner pulsed once more. This time the alert tone echoed across the entire atrium as the station systems accepted the conclusion. The nurse exhaled slowly, still staring at the display. "Yes," she whispered. "And now the entire Empire knows it." For a long moment Hunter thought the scanner had malfunctioned, because the spiral pattern hovering above the device suddenly changed shape again, unfolding into a structure far more complex than anything he had seen so far. The glowing lattice rotated slowly in midair, its lines aligning perfectly with the ancient resonance diagrams the nurse had opened earlier. Around them the atrium lights dimmed slightly as the station redirected more processing power to the anomaly. The quiet murmur of alien voices spread through the balconies overhead as technicians and researchers began receiving the same update across the network. Hunter rubbed the side of his neck and glanced from the display to the nurse's face. That reaction does not look like a normal medical result. She did not respond immediately. Her golden eyes were fixed on a new symbol that had appeared inside the rotating lattice. It was older than the Commonwealth script used throughout the station, a language preserved only in archaeological records from the earliest expansion era of Avran civilization. The scanner translated slowly, as if the system itself was uncertain how to interpret what it had found. When the translation finally stabilized, the nurse's posture stiffened. Hunter noticed the change instantly. I am guessing that word is important. She swallowed once before answering. It is not a word, she said quietly. It is a classification. Hunter leaned closer to see the symbol more clearly. And what does it classify? The nurse hesitated for only a second before turning the scanner toward him so he could see the translation. The glowing text resolved into a simple phrase that made the surrounding technicians fall silent as the station network repeated it across every nearby console. Biological resonance key. Hunter blinked. That sounds like a title I definitely did not apply for. The nurse barely seemed to hear him. She expanded the archive panel again and a cascade of historical records flooded into the air around them. Diagrams of massive star systems appeared one after another, each connected by the same resonance lattice pattern now glowing on the scanner. Hunter realized quickly that what he was looking at was not just technology. It was the backbone of the entire Avran energy network, the ancient system that allowed their empire to stabilize wormhole corridors, power planetary shields, and maintain communication across dozens of star systems. And somehow, the signal from his body matched the central pattern of that network perfectly. The nurse's voice dropped to a whisper as she read the archival notes appearing beside the diagrams. The resonance network was never designed to operate alone. According to the oldest research logs, it required a biological interface to activate its full capacity. Hunter folded his arms slowly, already sensing where this was going. Let me guess. Your ancestors never found the interface. She shook her head. For 3,000 years our scientists believed the biological component was lost to time. The scanner pulsed again, brighter than before, and the spiral lattice expanded outward across the atrium display screens as the station confirmed the discovery. Hunter felt the same faint warmth ripple through his chest again, stronger this time, as if something deep inside his body had just recognized the ancient signal outside. Several technicians gasped softly as their consoles synchronized with the scanner reading. The nurse looked up at the star map where the Imperial vessel still waited beyond the station perimeter. Her expression had shifted from curiosity to something far more serious. They did not come here randomly, she said slowly. Hunter followed her gaze toward the distant ship. You think they knew? The scanner chimed once more and the archival panel opened a final record. The translation appeared slowly, each word heavier than the last. Hunter watched the nurse read it, then watched the color drain slightly from her face. What does it say? He asked. She turned the scanner toward him again so he could see the ancient text. The translation hovered between them like a verdict written thousands of years ago. Primary biological resonance key must originate from a species capable of continuous adaptive reproduction. Hunter stared at the phrase for several seconds before letting out a quiet breath. Continuous adaptive reproduction, he repeated. The nurse met his eyes, her voice barely audible now. In other words, she said, a species whose biology never stops evolving. Hunter looked down at his own hands for a moment, then slowly back toward the Imperial vessel waiting in orbit. And somehow, he said, your ancient network thinks humans are that species. The scanner vibrated again, confirming the alignment across the entire station grid. The nurse closed her eyes briefly as the realization settled in. Yes, she whispered. And now the Empire knows the key has finally appeared. The moment the translation finished spreading across the station network, the atmosphere inside the atrium changed completely. What had been quiet curiosity only seconds ago turned into something heavier, like an invisible weight had settled over every balcony and corridor. Hunter noticed it immediately. Conversation stopped. Technicians who had been whispering to each other suddenly straightened as new alerts appeared across their consoles. Above them the massive star map shifted again, highlighting the Imperial vessel with a bright ring that pulsed across the projection. The station was no longer just observing the situation. It was reporting it. Hunter let out a slow breath and glanced around at the dozens of alien faces now quietly watching him. "Okay," he said under his breath, "I really do not like that everyone suddenly knows my name without me introducing myself." The nurse did not respond. Her attention was locked onto a new stream of messages appearing across her scanner. The display expanded automatically as the Imperial Science Directorate opened a direct channel with the station's research network. Symbols scrolled rapidly across the holographic panels, translating fragments of official communication that had clearly not been meant for public display. Hunter leaned slightly closer and tried to follow the translation. Even without understanding every word, the tone was obvious. Urgent. Formal. Controlled. The nurse read silently for several seconds before her shoulders stiffened. Hunter noticed the shift immediately. "That message looks important." She hesitated before answering. "The Directorate has confirmed the archive match," she said slowly. "Your biological signal is identical to the resonance key pattern recorded in the earliest activation logs." Hunter nodded once. "Right. The 3,000-year-old network that apparently thinks I am part of the instruction manual." "Yes." Another message appeared, this one larger than the others. The translation formed in glowing text across the panel, visible to anyone standing nearby. "Directive, secure biological key for Imperial analysis." Hunter read the phrase twice before exhaling sharply. Secure sounds suspiciously official. The nurse's eyes flicked toward him with sudden concern. "The Directorate does not issue that command lightly," she said. Hunter crossed his arms and looked up again at the Imperial vessel hanging in orbit above the station. It had not moved closer. But something around it had changed. The star map showed a subtle energy field expanding slowly from the ship, linking with the station's resonance grid like a handshake across space. Hunter felt the faint warmth in his chest again, slightly stronger this time. He placed a hand against his sternum instinctively. That pulse just happened again. The nurse saw the movement. Her scanner vibrated in response. The spiral lattice reappeared in the holographic display, this time larger than before, stretching outward until it aligned with the station's entire resonance grid. Several consoles across the atrium flashed simultaneously as the network synchronized with the signal. One technician gasped softly from a nearby balcony. The nurse stared at the growing pattern with a mixture of fascination and dread. "Your signal is not just interacting with the grid," she said quietly. "It is stabilizing it." Glanced again at the Imperial vessel beyond the station windows. "Which probably explains why they showed up." The scanner chimed once more as a final message from the Directorate appeared across the panel. This one carried a priority seal that made the surrounding technicians visibly uneasy. The translation resolved slowly but clearly. "Prepare containment protocols for resonance key subject." Hunter stared at the phrase for several seconds before letting out a quiet laugh that held no humor at all. "Containment," he repeated. The nurse's golden eyes met his, and for the first time since this entire situation began, there was genuine worry in her expression. "The Empire believes your existence could control the entire resonance network," she said softly. Hunter looked back toward the distant ship, then toward the dozens of silent observers surrounding the atrium. "And now they want to make sure I do not walk away with it." The spiral pattern pulsed again across the station grid, brighter than ever, and the nurse slowly lowered the scanner as a realization settled across her face. "Hunter," she whispered, "you are no longer just a patient in this station." Hunter gave a tired smile. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I figured that part out." The atrium did not return to normal after the containment directive appeared across the station network. If anything, the silence around Hunter only grew heavier. Technicians were no longer pretending to work. Security drones had quietly repositioned themselves along the upper walkways, their smooth metallic bodies hovering like patient observers rather than threats. No alarms blared, no weapons appeared, but the message was clear enough. The station had shifted from curiosity to control. Hunter noticed it immediately. He glanced upward toward one of the drones drifting along the curved ceiling rail and gave a quiet sigh. I have been in enough corporate meetings to recognize when everyone in the room is suddenly watching me, he said under his breath. The nurse remained beside him, her scanner still glowing faintly with the resonance spiral, but the earlier scientific excitement had faded into something far more personal. She lowered the device slowly and stepped a little closer so that the surrounding observers could not easily read the screen. They will not act aggressively while the network is stabilizing, she said quietly. Hunter raised an eyebrow. That sentence had the words not yet hiding inside it. She did not deny it. Instead she glanced toward the orbital map again where the Imperial vessel continued to maintain its position just beyond the station perimeter. A new ring of energy had formed around the ship, a thin halo of pale light that expanded slowly into the surrounding resonance grid. Hunter felt the pulse again, stronger than before, spreading through his chest like a quiet echo of the signal outside. He rubbed the center of his sternum and gave a small laugh that carried more disbelief than humor. You know the strange part, he said. It does not hurt. The nurse studied him carefully. You feel the resonance every time the network adjusts. Yes. That means your biology is synchronizing with the system. Hunter looked up at the massive star map again and then back at her. Is that good for me or good for them? She hesitated long enough that the answer became obvious before she even spoke. The network has been operating below its theoretical capacity for centuries, she said quietly. Hunter gave a crooked smile. And now it thinks I am the missing upgrade. For the first time since he woke up the nurse allowed herself a small, uneasy breath of laughter. You simplify the situation, she said. But yes. The warmth in Hunter's chest pulsed again and the spiral lattice briefly appeared across the station displays before fading back into the network background. Around the atrium several technicians reacted immediately, their consoles lighting up with new streams of data. Hunter noticed their excitement and shook his head slowly. I think your scientists just realized I am not leaving quietly. The nurse's expression softened slightly as she looked at him. You saved several civilians when your transport malfunctioned near the station, she said. Hunter blinked, surprised by the sudden shift in topic. That story made the patrol report already. Yes. She lowered her voice. It is why you were brought to the medical wing instead of quarantine. Hunter nodded slowly. So I owe you for that? No, she replied. You owe yourself. The warmth pulsed again and the resonance spiral flickered faintly across the scanner. She watched it carefully for a moment before speaking again, this time more seriously. Hunter, she said quietly, if the Empire decides you must remain here, there will be very few individuals who can challenge that decision. Hunter studied her expression and saw something new. There that had not been present earlier. Concern. Not scientific curiosity. Not professional interest. Concern for him specifically. He leaned slightly closer so that the surrounding observers could not hear him clearly. You are worried about me. The nurse hesitated before answering. You are a patient under my care. Hunter gave a small grin. That is the professional answer. She did not argue. Instead she looked toward the Imperial vessel once more, watching the slow ripple of energy spreading through the resonance grid around it. The Empire believes you could control the entire infrastructure of our civilization, she said softly. Hunter exhaled slowly and glanced again at the silent drones drifting across the atrium ceiling. Then I guess I just became the most interesting problem in this star system. The scanner vibrated again, but this time the spiral pattern did something neither of them expected. Instead of expanding outward toward the station network, it shifted direction slightly and aligned directly with Hunter's own heartbeat pattern. The nurse stared at the new reading and felt a chill of realization run through her. "Hunter," she whispered, "the resonance network is no longer just detecting you." He frowned. "What does that mean?" She turned the scanner so he could see the updated analysis. The translation appeared slowly but clearly across the display. "Active biological synchronization in progress." The words "active biological synchronization" did not disappear from the scanner display. Instead, they expanded into a new diagnostic layer that neither Hunter nor the nurse had seen before. The spiral lattice grew larger across the holographic projection, its lines now pulsing in perfect rhythm with Hunter's heartbeat. Around the atrium, consoles began lighting up again as the station network registered the change. This time the reaction from the surrounding technicians was immediate and unmistakable. Several stepped closer to their displays. Others began sending rapid data requests through the network. The discovery was spreading through the research systems faster than anyone could contain it. Hunter looked down at the glowing pattern hovering inches above the scanner and gave a slow exhale. "That phrase sounds like my body just signed a contract without asking me." The nurse did not smile this time. She expanded the scanner interface again, revealing a deeper layer of analysis that had only just unlocked. The system had begun comparing Hunter's biological signals with the ancient resonance archives stored within the Commonwealth database. Thousands of years of data streamed past in seconds. Hunter watched the display for a moment before noticing the way the nurse's posture had changed again. "You just found something," he said quietly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Yes." She pointed to a section of the projection where the spiral lattice had expanded into a branching structure that resembled a living organism rather than a machine network. Hunter leaned closer to study it. "That looks less like technology and more like biology." "Exactly." She opened another archive panel and the scanner projected an ancient research diagram into the air beside the spiral. The diagram showed the resonance grid stretching across multiple star systems, but at its center there was something the earlier diagrams had never displayed. A biological waveform almost identical to Hunter's current signal. The nurse's fingers hovered over the panel as she read the translated notes. The early Avran researchers believed the resonance network was not simply an energy infrastructure, she said slowly. They believed it was designed to evolve. Hunter blinked. Infrastructure does not usually evolve. Unless it was built to grow alongside a living species. The spiral pattern pulsed again. This time the branching structure extended outward across the station network map, connecting with the distant Imperial vessel and several dormant resonance nodes scattered across nearby systems. The reaction from the technicians around the atrium intensified immediately. A chorus of quiet voices filled the air as new data flooded into their consoles. Hunter watched the projection expand and felt the warmth in his chest grow stronger with every pulse. "So the network is not just responding to me," he said slowly. "It is adapting." The nurse nodded, her golden eyes fixed on the evolving diagram. "Your biology is acting as a catalyst." Hunter crossed his arms thoughtfully. Catalyst usually means something big is about to happen. The scanner chimed again, interrupting them with a new analysis result. The translation appeared in bold text across the projection. Genetic compatibility threshold exceeded. Hunter read the phrase once and frowned. That sounds like a sentence you would normally hear in a laboratory. The nurse did not respond immediately. Instead she opened one final layer of archive records, and the scanner revealed a fragment of ancient text buried deep within the Commonwealth historical database. The translation resolved slowly, line by line, as if the system itself was struggling to accept the conclusion. Hunter watched the nurse read it and saw the moment her expression changed from curiosity to something closer to awe. "What does it say?" he asked. She turned the display toward him so he could read the final line himself. "When the resonance key species emerges, the network will awaken and expand beyond its original design." Hunter stared at the phrase while the spiral lattice continued growing across the projection, linking systems that had been dormant for centuries. Above them the star map brightened as distant resonance nodes flickered online one after another across nearby sectors. Hunter let out a quiet breath. So the network has been waiting this whole time. The nurse nodded slowly. Yes. Hunter glanced toward the Imperial vessel still holding position beyond the station and then back to the growing lattice spreading across the display. And now it thinks humans are the species it has been waiting for. The scanner pulsed once more, brighter than ever before, and the translation added a final line beneath the ancient record. Evolutionary expansion sequence initiated. The moment the phrase evolutionary expansion sequence initiated appeared across the projection, the entire atrium reacted like a living organism waking from sleep. The spiral lattice that had been hovering quietly above the scanner suddenly surged outward across every visible display in the chamber. Star systems that had remained dark in the ancient resonance network for centuries flickered to life one by one across the massive orbital map. Hunter watched the chain reaction unfold and felt the warmth in his chest spike sharply, like a second heartbeat trying to keep pace with the growing grid. He inhaled slowly and pressed his palm against his sternum again. That one definitely got stronger. The nurse saw the movement immediately. Her scanner began emitting a rapid sequence of tones as new readings flooded the display faster than the device could categorize them. She expanded the interface, and a flood of analysis results burst across the holographic panel. Hunter leaned forward just enough to read the first line before the next one replaced it. System-wide resonance escalation detected. That sounds big, he muttered. The nurse did not answer right away. Her eyes were fixed on the star map above them where the expanding lattice had now reached several distant nodes far beyond the station's immediate sector. Each time one of those nodes activated, the warmth inside Hunter's chest pulsed again. The rhythm was no longer faint. It was strong enough that he could feel it through his ribs like a low-energy vibration spreading through his entire body. Around them the technicians in the atrium had stopped pretending to work entirely. Several research consoles were now projecting the same resonance lattice pattern across the balconies. The discovery had clearly moved beyond curiosity. It was now an event the entire scientific division of the Commonwealth was watching in real time. Hunter noticed the attention and shook his head slowly. I have a feeling that ship outside just got a lot more interested in me. The nurse's gaze shifted briefly toward the Imperial vessel beyond the station windows. The energy halo around it had grown brighter, expanding into the resonance grid like a conductor guiding an orchestra. But something about the new scanner data made her expression tighten with concern rather than excitement. Hunter, she said quietly, the network is not just expanding. He raised an eyebrow. Then what is it doing? She turned the scanner toward him so he could see the latest translation. The words formed slowly across the screen, as if the system itself was uncertain how to categorize the phenomenon. Primary biological synchronization reaching threshold. Hunter stared at the phrase for several seconds. Threshold sounds like a point of no return. Yes. The nurse's voice was barely above a whisper now. The spiral lattice expanded again, stretching across the star map until it connected directly with the Imperial vessel and several deep space nodes far outside the Commonwealth's current borders. Several technicians gasped quietly as the system revealed something none of them had expected. The resonance network was not stopping at the Empire's infrastructure. It was reaching beyond it. Hunter followed the glowing lattice lines across the projection and slowly realized what they were looking at. Those nodes, he said carefully. They are outside your territory. The nurse nodded slowly. They are ancient structures no one has been able to activate in thousands of years. The scanner chimed again. This time the analysis window opened a final projection layered directly over Hunter's biological readings. A complex genetic compatibility model appeared, comparing his physiology to the ancient resonance architecture. The result stabilized after a few seconds. Genetic interface viability 98%. Hunter blinked. That is, a suspiciously high number. The nurse looked at him with a mixture of awe and concern. It means the network believes you are capable of controlling it. Hunter glanced up at the expanding lattice stretching across the star map and felt the pulse in his chest intensify again. The resonance grid was no longer simply reacting to him. It was aligning with him. Around the atrium the security drones had shifted position again, drifting closer to the central platform where he stood. No weapons appeared, no alarms sounded, but the message was clear enough. The station was preparing for a decision. Hunter noticed immediately. He glanced up at one of the hovering drones and then back toward the Imperial vessel beyond the station windows. "Let me guess," he said quietly. "If I say the wrong thing right now, this situation gets a lot more complicated." The nurse hesitated before answering. "Yes." Hunter exhaled slowly and looked back down at the scanner where the resonance spiral continued pulsing in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then the scanner chimed one final time as the network completed another synchronization cycle. The translation appeared across the screen in calm, unmistakable text. "Primary resonance control awaiting biological command." For several long seconds after the phrase "primary resonance control awaiting biological command" appeared on the scanner, no one in the atrium moved. The massive lattice of glowing lines stretched across the star map above them like a living constellation, connecting ancient nodes that had slept for thousands of years. Hunter could feel the rhythm of it now as clearly as his own heartbeat. Each pulse of the network echoed through his chest like a quiet vibration spreading outward through bone and muscle. He slowly lowered his hand from his sternum and looked again at the scanner hovering between him and the nurse. "So this thing is basically waiting for me to press a button that does not exist," he said quietly. The nurse did not answer immediately. Her golden eyes were fixed on the words glowing across the display, and the concern she had been hiding all day had finally surfaced in full. Around them the station had become completely silent. Every technician in the atrium was watching. Even the security drones had stopped moving, hovering in place as if the entire station was holding its breath. Hunter glanced upward at the enormous star map again. The Imperial vessel beyond the station had changed position slightly, its halo of energy now fully merged with the resonance grid. It looked less like an observer now and more like a waiting witness. "They are expecting something to happen," he murmured. The nurse nodded slowly. "The Empire believes the network will respond to your command." Hunter let out a quiet breath and studied the expanding lattice stretching across the display. Ancient nodes flickered alive across star systems that the Commonwealth had never managed to activate. Some of them were far beyond the borders of known space. The scale of it made his head spin slightly. "You said earlier that this network powers most of your civilization," he said. "Travel corridors, energy grids, planetary shields." "Yes." Hunter looked back down at the scanner where the spiral pattern continued pulsing in perfect rhythm with his heart. "And if someone controlled the whole thing?" The nurse finished the thought softly. "They could reshape the balance of power across the entire galaxy." Hunter gave a quiet laugh that carried no humor. "That sounds like the worst possible responsibility to give a cargo pilot from Earth." The warmth in his chest pulsed again, stronger now, and the spiral lattice flared across the star map in response. The network was waiting. Not demanding. Not forcing. Waiting. Hunter noticed something then that none of the surrounding observers seemed to recognize. The lattice lines connecting the distant nodes were not rigid like machine circuits. They flowed like branches of a living system, adjusting themselves every time his heartbeat changed. He leaned slightly closer to the scanner and studied the pattern for several seconds. "This thing is not looking for orders," he said quietly. The nurse looked up at him. "What do you mean?" Hunter gestured toward the branching lattice on the display. "It is adapting every time my heart rate shifts. That means it is not waiting for control." He looked up again at the vast network stretching across the stars. "It is waiting for cooperation." The nurse stared at the display again as the implication settled in. The ancient archive text had described the resonance key species as one capable of continuous adaptive evolution. Not domination. Adaptation. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The network was never designed to belong to anyone. Hunter nodded slowly. It was designed to grow alongside a living species. The scanner chimed again as the synchronization pattern stabilized. Hunter placed his hand lightly against the glowing projection, not touching the device itself but aligning his palm with the center of the spiral pattern. The warmth in his chest surged gently, and the resonance lattice across the star map shifted in response. Instead of expanding aggressively, the network began balancing itself across the newly activated nodes, redistributing energy flows evenly throughout the system. Several technicians gasped softly as the station consoles recalculated their projections. The nurse watched the transformation unfold in stunned silence. Hunter stepped back slightly as the pulse in his chest finally steadied again. "There," he said quietly. "No empire controls it." The scanner confirmed the adjustment instantly. Resonance network stabilized under cooperative biological interface. The nurse looked up at the star map where the once dormant nodes now glowed steadily across dozens of distant systems. For the first time since the Imperial vessel arrived, the resonance grid had reached equilibrium. She turned slowly toward Hunter, disbelief still lingering in her expression. "You just balanced an ancient interstellar network," she said softly. Hunter gave a tired half-smile. "Honestly," he replied, "I just listened to what it was asking for." The scanner pulsed once more, and the lattice across the star map shifted again, this time forming a stable structure that extended far beyond the Empire's borders. The nurse looked at the new pattern and felt a quiet realization settle in her mind. The network had not just awakened. It had chosen its partner. The resonance grid did not fade after Hunter stepped back from the projection. Instead it settled into a calm, steady rhythm that stretched across the entire star map above the atrium like a living constellation finally breathing in balance. The ancient nodes that had awakened moments earlier no longer pulsed erratically. Their energy flowed smoothly through the lattice, redistributing power across regions of space that had remained dormant for thousands of years. For the first time since the discovery began, the station systems stopped issuing alerts. Consoles across the balconies shifted from warning colors to quiet streams of analytical data. The network had stabilized. Hunter felt the change inside his chest as clearly as the silence that filled the chamber. The strange warmth that had been building in his ribs slowly softened until it felt less like pressure and more like a quiet awareness, as if something vast had settled into harmony with the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He exhaled slowly and looked up at the star map again. The Imperial vessel still hovered beyond the station windows, its halo of resonance energy now perfectly aligned with the rest of the network. But it no longer looked like a command center. It looked like another node in a system that had grown far larger than any single empire. Around the atrium the observers finally began speaking again, their voices hushed with disbelief rather than urgency. Some technicians pointed at the newly active star systems glowing far beyond the Commonwealth borders. Others studied the stability graphs appearing across their displays. The discovery had already begun rewriting their understanding of the resonance network. Hunter watched them for a moment before glancing at the nurse beside him. She had not moved since the scanner confirmed the stabilization. Her golden eyes were fixed on the projection above them where the lattice now stretched across regions of space no one in the Commonwealth had ever been able to reach. "It is quiet now," she said softly. Hunter nodded once. "Yeah. Feels like it finally stopped asking questions." The scanner chimed one last time in her hand. She glanced down at the display and then slowly turned it so Hunter could see the final system message. Cooperative biological interface confirmed. Autonomous resonance equilibrium established. Hunter read the line and gave a small smile that held more relief than pride. Sounds like it learned to run on its own. The nurse looked back up at the glowing network above them. "No," she said gently. "It learned to run with you." Hunter followed her gaze across the map. The activated nodes formed new pathways through regions of space the Empire had never explored, quiet bridges waiting to be discovered. Not controlled. Discovered. He folded his arms loosely and let the silence settle for a moment. You know, he said thoughtfully, back on Earth people always argue about who should control the future. The nurse looked at him. And what do they decide? Hunter gave a small shrug. Usually the loudest person in the room. Above them the resonance lattice shimmered faintly, expanding another fraction of a light-year outward as the network continued adapting to its new balance. Hunter watched the motion and then shook his head with a quiet laugh. Turns out, the universe had a better idea. The nurse studied him for a moment, understanding slowly dawning behind her calm expression. The ancient archives had described the resonance key species as one capable of continuous evolution, a species that could grow alongside the network rather than dominate it. The Commonwealth had spent centuries searching for a ruler for the system. Instead it had found a partner. Hunter looked once more at the immense constellation of energy stretching across the galaxy and then turned back toward the nurse. So what happens now? She followed his gaze toward the distant stars that had just awakened beyond the edge of known space. Her voice was quiet but certain. Now the galaxy discovers what humanity does best. Hunter raised an eyebrow. And what is that? She allowed herself a small smile as the resonance lattice shimmered gently across the heavens. You explore. For a long moment neither of them spoke. The ancient network continued spreading quietly through the darkness between stars, no longer waiting for orders. No longer asleep. Hunter watched the growing constellation and felt the steady rhythm of the resonance echo softly within his chest. He had not conquered the system. He had simply reminded it how to listen. And somewhere beyond the edge of the Commonwealth, entire star systems were beginning to wake.